It's an email breakdown.
Email's not dead.
Hello there, friends. It's me, Nudge, Marketing Alchemist. We really should stop meeting like this. People will begin to talk. Anyway, I'm here for another email breakdown. And yet again, is another email I submitted to Really Good Emails, which means you can take a look at this email yourself and have a look at the code and have a look at the little bits and pieces I've talked about. What I'm going to do is I haven't looked at this email in a hot minute, probably in a couple of years. I designed this email during my time as a digital marketing executive there at Healthy Heroes. And yeah, I think I'm looking at this with sort of fresh eyes. So this is a little bit off the cuff. So there will be a little bit of umming and ahhing. So do excuse me. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just sort of scroll down the email really briefly, and then I can kind of zoom into some notable bits and pieces and talk about my general thought process when designing this email. So as you can see, this email was designed to get registrations for people to volunteer to do some charity collection for Healthy Heroes, obviously in August. It's pretty simple, but there's actually a lot of thinking that goes into an email like this. I think even more so for charities. And I'll delve into that in just a little bit. But as you can see, it's fairly short. So first things first, just a little bit of context around the creation of an email like this. So there was a content team, and it might not be the case now, but this was certainly the case when I was working in the Healthy Heroes. So there was a content team, and that means a team of designers, a copywriter who would be given briefs and create the assets that would be given over to the digital marketing team, of which I was part of, to turn into something like this, or social media, or even landing pages, etc. So my specific remit was around email marketing and paid ads. But in this case, obviously, we're talking about emails. So so as you can see, another gradient, I believe in my last video, I spoke about a gradient, but I genuinely think it's just a great little cheat or a hack to get people to scroll down. It makes the email look a little bit more organic. And I do think in this case that it made the headline pop a little bit more. Will you volunteer to help our heroes this August? I think much more than it would have if it had just been that text over the image, which would have looked a little bit awkward. So as we scroll down, we can see there's one button, one CTA, 2 and 3 in total. And you might be thinking, oh, 3 CTAs. Well, when I designed these were to give people multiple opportunities to convert. Because let's say, for example, if someone wasn't convinced at this scroll, they might scroll down a bit more. There's a little bit more information. And if they weren't convinced here, there's even more information. And that gives them that gives the audience several opportunities to just click through. And also you have to think about mobile first design. So looking at this email on mobile, it'll be compressed. And if you only had one CTA in the email, let's say at the top or at the bottom, it'll be quite a few scrolls to get there. So so that's the reason why there are multiple CTAs in here, or calls to action. What I really like about this email is the language of the calls to action. And again, shout out to the excellent content team at Healthy Heroes. It was super easy to work with, even though they were incredibly busy. So you can see pretty basic one right up top, sign up now, super obvious. But then as we go on with a little bit more information, it's this very energizing, motivating language, like, sounds good, sign me up. And on this, it's, yes, I'll volunteer. I think it was really on brand with the energy of the email. And another element of the email I want to draw your attention to is if you can't volunteer this time, you can still help by sharing this email with friends and family. We try to have this as a kind of secondary ask to your emails because we knew that, hey, not everyone's available to do collection. You know, it's a big ask for people, especially if they're busy. They might not be able to do that. And so we still wanted people to give people the opportunity to help any way they can. And a really simple, low barrier way of doing that is by just spreading the word, sharing the email with friends and family, or putting it up on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. And of course, at the end of every email at Help for Heroes, always try to make sure to thank the database for their support because, hey, even receiving the emails, even reading the emails is still a commitment of some kind. And so I really love that about the copy from this email and the others from Help for Heroes. Another thing to draw your attention to is the actual design of the email. So you'll notice that there's a red border. And I would always try and design our ask emails to break the pattern in some way from our usual newsletters that we were sending out to the database, because this had a very specific intention behind it, which was to get registrations, whereas the newsletters were much more of an informative, kind of nurturing, brand building exercise. And so when this landed in people's inboxes, I wanted it to stand out or pop. And that's why I included this I can't speak, this border and a slightly different design, because I believe, and I may be remembering this wrong, but I believe the newsletters I designed at the time were on a white background. They were pretty not say wordy, but they were structured much more like an email newsletter. Whereas this is much more like, hey, there is clearly something that we want you to convert on. One thing to remember for nonprofits or charities is that people need reasons to support, and they need the right information, and they need it to be as frictionless as possible. That's definitely what I learned during my time at Help for Heroes. So every time I designed an email, it was with those principles in mind. So I think one of the things about being a good email marketer, or just a marketer in general, is being an interpreter. And so I'd often work with the content team, with or whoever was giving the brief on some best practices around creating the emails. Maybe not necessarily this one, but certainly on some of the other things it was briefed to do, where if I thought, hey, this email really doesn't have enough information or really isn't persuasive enough for the audience to want to convert, I'd say so. And I think that's the job of like a good marketer, right? You need to really leverage your knowledge and your expertise to feed back to your stakeholders and your clients, whoever they may be, to make sure that the end product is best shape as possible. So there's some great stuff here. I think with the language, you can see language like, our amazing partner, Moto in the Community, have been fundraising tirelessly for our heroes again this year, and they need your help to beat last year's fundraising total. It's always about addressing you, the person reading the email. We always try to make the language as individual as possible, as personable as possible. And yeah, I think that's something that every bit of marketing copy could really do with, of course, dependent on the situation. But yeah, so, it really is always about the person who sat there in front of the screen reading this. So yes, I think that's pretty much what occurs to me as I'm looking at this. I think this is a pretty solid email still. There's not too much I would change about this with my current set of knowledge and expertise. That might change like a year from now, 5 years from now. But Maybe another thing that I would have added here is, I don't know, maybe moving elements, but again, it might be too much. I actually really like this image. I think it's really sweet. This feeling of camaraderie and solidarity. With the really great staff and volunteers and mascot of Help for Heroes. So there you go. That's my thought process. There was a little bit of the behind the scenes on this email. As I recall, it was designed in Dot Digital, which had a really great drag and drop functionality at the time. I haven't been in Dot Digital for a little while, so I don't know what it looks like recently. But at the time, I definitely enjoyed working with the WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get editor. Especially as I'm not an expert coder myself, it was quite easy to use. So if you have any more questions about this email, do let me know. I'm always happy to discuss a little bit more about the work that I talk about. So yeah, drop me a comment, slide in my DMs, homing pigeon, smoke signals, whatever. Do let me know. All right. Have a good day.